There are so many things that we are doing differently here, and there are so many ways that we built this brokerage to be different, to both empower you as agents, and I believe by empowering you as agents with choice, that ultimately drives more benefit to the consumer. Think about the tools we provide to you, that then you are able to provide to your clients: the listing power tools, marketing collateral, the luxury collections marketing collaterals, the direct mail, all of these tangible ways that you are helping your consumers list their homes and sell them and bringing more value. And what I will tell you is, when you go up against a listing appointment on another agent who doesn't have all of that stuff, their position is weakened. And guess what? If they don't have all of this stuff, there is a greater chance that they may have to lower their commission even more than they would want to because of how much value you bring.
LPT Realty, Motivational Monday, Robert Palmer in your living room, at your desk. Here we are today. My name's AJ Ackerman.
I'm Mark Ammons.
And we are Elevated Agents. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to see you again. We have yet another episode with Mr. Robert Palmer and Matt Hodge, presenting to you guys some of the updates. One, I love that they always start talking about the market. They talk about the brokerage and what's going on. So one, it's great to see you guys here. Today, they're going to be talking about some of the reports that just recently came out, the jobs report, what's going on in the interest rate market, the mortgage market. So we're going to go ahead and let Robert share with you guys right now.
Yeah, so the jobs report had significantly more jobs created than I think a lot of people were expecting. And so we had talked about this. The Fed, there was this: is the Fed going to pause? Some people were saying, hey, the Fed's going to start cutting 6 times next year. I saw somebody make that crazy proclamation. I'm not in that camp. I'd love for it to be, but I'm not in that camp. But so we ran into this brick wall of a jobs report on Friday. And so, I think that the consensus number, the forecast number was like 125,000 jobs. That morning on Bloomberg, you had analysts still saying, oh, we think it may be 75,000. We may be under 100. Like, everyone was thinking there would be much less job creation. And the number printed at 199,000 jobs. So the economy, the jobs portion of the economy is not cracking. Also, wage growth in that report is still in line with what would result in higher inflation. And so kind of there's two things the Fed's looking at, which is inflation on goods, but then also inflation on wages, because both of those they want to come back into the 2% range. And so while we've gotten decent data that the goods inflation based on the last 2 or 3 months is receding, although some experts think it's going to kind of rear its ugly head again in Q1, I think the Fed believes that as well based on how they're positioning and how they're talking. And so you saw rates tick back up a little bit. Again, very volatile period right now. We're going through this big shift. You have a lot of traders making this decision of, hey, where do we think rates are going to be a year from now? And that's the big gamble. That's the big bet. That's what drives mortgage rates. Where are the Fed's rates going to be 12 months from now? Because that's going to drive the mortgage rates over time. So a lot going on there. But at the end of the day, almost 200,000 jobs created. That kind of brought a stop to the rally we were seeing in rates. The 10-year is now back up in the 4.2 range. For a minute there, I tell you, if that report had come in at 75,000, we would probably see a 3 handle. We'd probably see the 10-year back in the 3s, which would be fantastic for mortgage rates. But again, it was a little bit of a head fake. So here we are. Again, it's really important to stay in touch with your local mortgage experts. Make sure you understand when your customers are locking, when they have that payment that they're comfortable with and that rate they can live with, lock it in. They can always refi later if rates do come down. And if rates go up, well, they're going to be glad they locked in when they did. So and actually, when I wrote my book, Financial Ninja Handbook, I talk about don't gamble with your interest rate. When you're buying a house, lock the rate in, make sure you're covered. The last thing you want to do is gamble and get this nasty surprise where the payment goes up $300, $400, $500 right before closing because you decided to float the rate until the last minute. So I'm a lock early guy. I always have been. You're buying this very large asset. You're taking on this very large payment in your life. Lock in with what you're comfortable with and just know that you can always refinance later if the market does improve. And I still believe that over time we're going to see mortgage rates come back down. I think we're going to have a massive refi boom somewhere in the next 36 months, but I'm not as optimistic that we're going to see some massive drop in interest rates next year. Now, I've been wrong before. I may be wrong about this one, but that's how I see the board as we sit here today.
Yeah, that's right. So as customers are waiting on the sidelines, like how they did, just like when they're waiting for home prices to come down, it's always important to understand how to have this conversation with them so that they understand what the real playing field is. Because the illusion of saying, hey, I'm just going to wait for rates to come down is they could be missing out on real opportunities, and they're not basing it on real data. And so we like to cover this every single week so that you do have real data and you do have real talking points so that you can say to your buyers, hey, this is the data that we're looking at. If you're looking at something different, of course, let me know, but this is the information that we look at. And so here's why we are giving you the advice that we do. So it's always important to understand what the consumer could be hearing in the headlines there, and then what the real data is that moves interest rates and what that environment looks like. So
yeah, this week we have inflation data. We had the wage inflation data last week along with the jobs report. Now we're going to get into the inflation data on goods. So we're going to get into PPI, CPI. So again, this is a big week to watch. And then the Fed will be speaking this week as well. They've got their meeting. I think they've been in they have a 7 or 10 day quiet period. So the Fed has not been able to say anything since early last week. And so they're going to come out swinging in the next couple of days here. And so we're really going to see what happens, because their posture, the way they talk about when they are going to start potentially cutting rates or not, and what they think is going to happen as far as what data they're watching. But again, this is going to be another super volatile week. So if you've got a consumer who's on the bubble and they can lock in a great rate now, definitely have that conversation with the local mortgage advisor, your local mortgage expert, and then know that if you're wrong and rates drop, if we're wrong and rates drop, they can always refinance again in the future. That is the beauty of the mortgage. It is a one-sided, instrument. It is an option in favor of the consumer. If you have a 2.75 rate and rates go up to 7 and 8 like they are now, you're able to just stay, and then if not, you can always refinance and drop.
That's right. And like you always talk about, it's the most powerful instrument the consumer has. It's one-sided, which there's not a lot of things that say, hey, you have the upside. If things get better, you can take advantage of it. If things get worse, in the case of higher interest rates, you're locked in.
Yeah, that's a great information, AJ. It's so funny because we think about if the economy improves and the housing market will get better. And it's, when you have a leader who kind of understands that it's really going to take a negative market and negative job reports for this thing to really break. Robert talked about it last week, that it's going to take a weaker economy to help out the situation that the Fed created in the housing market in the first place. And so it's kind of counterintuitive. And so while most people are kind of, waiting for this overall economic boom, that's not necessarily for our industry exactly what we need right now to help that side out. So there's kind of these, mixed incentive and mixed motives. And I think just understanding that, though, so that again, as clients are talking to you, if you can discuss these things with them in an intelligent manner and show that you know what you're talking about, you see how all these things are connected, it's going to put you in a position to give better advice to them so that they can make a more educated decision and not just go off of headlines they're seeing in the media or things that their cousin's brother's uncle who happens to sell real estate on the side told them. Having all these facts is really, really valuable. And so I love that we get this every single Monday. The next part I'm really, really excited for. So Robert is going to talk about some of the upgrades and changes that we're making, in particular to how we communicate internally as a company. A lot of the systems that we built here were not meant for the ultimate 150, 160,000 agents that we hope to have one day. And so Robert's going to talk about his mindset and his process for transforming what we have now into what's going to be the longer term solution. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear this. There's a lot of value here.
Okay, so let's flip over to some brokerage updates. I know that we've been talking about some improvements. Of course, we always like to save those big announcements for like the Grand Prix and those big events, but we are making incremental improvements. But I think that this is a pretty big one, because there's been a lot of requests around different communication types and making that more organized. And so I know that we've been working behind the scenes. Are you ready to discuss kind of what that could look like?
Yeah, let's jump into that. So, communication is one of the things that I think is really critical for what we're trying to build. If you think about it, we're talking about taking a single entity brokerage to 150, 160,000 U.S. agents, and no one's ever done that before. And one of the big things that we recognize early on is how we communicate with each other at that scale is going to have to be much different than traditional brokerages. When you have a small market center or an individual brokerage that's, a franchise, and you've got a local broker owner, and so that person is really responsible for disseminating information to the maybe 200 agents at their brokerage. It's much different than what happens when you now suddenly have 150, 160,000 agents under a single entity, which has never been accomplished before. And I firmly believe we're going to be the first one to accomplish it, especially at the rate we're growing when others are slowing down so considerably. And so, we felt it was really important that for that scale, we're going to have to control the technology in-house. Before we launched LPT, we went out and kind of looked at the playing field. We looked at what existed out there. We use Slack internally. We use Teams internally in some of my companies. They're great for small to mid-size. They are not going to work at 150, 160,000 agents. We took a look at Meta, owned by Facebook, has Workplace. This is used by some of the other large brokerages. Again, I do not believe it would give us the granular level of control that we need as we get to this massive scale. And so the other piece is we didn't really understand exactly what that communication would look like when we went to launch the brokerage at day one, almost 2 years ago. And so we started with kind of some basic communication. We're doing email blasts through MailChimp. We've got the one official Facebook group where agents can communicate, but we recognize that we are quickly outgrowing those methods of communication. And I firmly believe that at scale, and again, being a technologist, that this is one of those pieces of technology that we need to control internally. One, we don't want agents to have to embrace another app. Like the idea that you would go into Connect for your DAs and knowledge base, but then you would go somewhere else to get news or updates or have a community and a place you can post and communicate with other agents, just doesn't make sense to me. But that is a big undertaking. Like for us to build out this massive communication platform, it is a heavy lift. I try to be really judicious about where we decide to deploy those resources, because one of the mistakes that companies can make is trying to build unnecessary technology or technology where a third-party solution does exist, but then I feel like they miss it on the other side where it's like, hey, we tried to build this and we messed it up, or something they could have built that they bought from. So I'm really diligent about that, and so always trying to make sure that we understand what we're building and why we're building it. And so when we get into communication at scale, that communication will 100% live inside of Connect. And it will be technology that we control internally so that we can make sure it fits the communication needs of a real estate brokerage very specifically versus something built for all general industries. And so we are kind of launching the next phase of that. The goal is to have, I would say, the kind of a full working version of this in place by Grand Prix, right? So that's going to come up in March. But we're getting into now the point where, because we're launching these new states, we're going to kind of be in the alpha stage, I guess, of this. So if you want to throw up some screenshots, Dave, these do exist inside of Connect. So whatever you just did, Dave, I guess the volume changed dramatically for folks. So let's remember that setting. Some people are too loud because they had it all the way up, and other people can now hear us. So let's remember that setting, because we want to make sure this is where we are. And now they say it's going down again. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep talking. Now it's gone again. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's enough people saying it went back down that something has happened to the sound again.
That's good.
We're going to have to just buy all new equipment for the studio.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to keep going. So if you take a look on the screen there, you will notice these three tabs inside of Connect, which are the three that are primarily focused on our communication with agents. And while a lot of these have existed in kind of this alpha phase, I would say we have not fully embraced them, and now we're getting in a stage in our growth where we're going to be putting a lot of effort and focus into improving the technology around these three tabs and the interface, but also improving the interaction. How active is corporate staff inside of these areas? How active are the state brokers inside of these areas? How active are our agents inside of these areas? And the most critical thing we are going to be launching in the next 4 to 6 weeks is each of these 3 tabs, once you visit them, will have 2 versions. They will have a version that is brokerage broad, and they will have a version that is specific to your state or states that you are licensed in. So we will have our general LPT knowledge base, which exists right now, but then from inside that knowledge base, you'll be able to switch over and see the Florida specific knowledge base, the Alabama specific knowledge base, the Kentucky, or not Kentucky yet, the Texas specific knowledge base, and then the same thing with the news tab, and the same thing with the community forums tab. All right. The other thing I will tell you is the community forums is going to be our internal version of, I guess, the way you would think about Facebook, right? A place where agents can make posts, and then other agents can comment on that post, and you can share things. So again, there will be a broad version of that for everyone, and then each state will have their own specific community forum. The important thing is, because it's all inside of our software, we can respond to things globally versus us having to log into 50 different Facebook groups, because while you all would only be a member of maybe 1 or 2 of those, our corporate team would have to be a member of all 50, which would just not be reasonable. And so as we build that out, the difference with these community forums is we are now going to have our support staff and state brokers start actively monitoring these community forums, where right now we've made it very clear the Facebook group is not for broker questions. It's not for support questions. Inside of these community forums, it will be monitored by our internal staff, so you can actually get that type of information. Also, we've built a cool feature where we can very quickly turn a community forum post into a ticket. So some of you have seen me in the Facebook group posting hashtag JSAT, JSAT, just submit a ticket, because a lot of the things that we see brought up in the community forum actually should be a ticket, and then we will then add it as a knowledge base article later if we think that it's something that more agents need to know about. So there's a little button that we can use on the back end where we can take any post in the community forums and quickly turn it into a ticket, which will replicate whatever you asked back into the ticket system. So again, this is some of the importance of us building out our own technology, because there is no way to turn a Facebook post into a ticket. It's not feasible for us to have, again, all of our corporate staff monitoring all of the different Facebook groups it would take in order to meet all of your individual needs. And so this is why we started with the single Facebook group, the single official group as a Band-Aid, and now we are going to be pushing hard into this. And so some agents have already been using this, but again, I would say that was even the pre-alpha phase, right? It's sitting there. We've been making sure things worked. Now you're going to see a bigger push where we're going to get much more active in there from the corporate level of making sure that those posts are being answered. We encourage you all to get active in there and making sure that you're communicating with each other. And so if we can kind of go through those again, Dave, I think you have some individual screenshots of the different sections if you want to pop those up, and we will talk about that. So the news section. News will be updated whenever there is something worth updating. And so we're actually going back now and we're adding some of the older posts. So things that I posted in the official Facebook group are being added back with the correct date to the news section. All of the newsletters that go out after Motivation Monday are going to be available in the news section. Eventually what will happen is the way that those email blasts will go out to you is on our side, we will create a news article, and then the technology will email that news article out to all of the agents based on whether it's a state-specific news article or a broad news article. So this will be the recent news. There'll be a new button showing up soon on the right that'll say switch to My State News, so that you'll have 2 different news tabs. You'll have one for general brokerage news, and then you'll have a second news tab that is only for your state's news. And if you have multiple states, you will have multiple tabs for those different states' news. But the cool thing is when our managing broker of, say, South Carolina puts something in the South Carolina news tab, it will then email blast it out just to the South Carolina agent. So that's the news tab. Now this is the community threads. This is kind of the alpha version of our, quote unquote internal Facebook, boards. We are working on making this more modern. We're working on taking this to the next level. I am confident that over time this is going to be on par with the absolute best communication and social media technology out there, but we had to start somewhere. And so this is where we started. Again, this is the general community threads. with our next update, you'll see state-specific community threads. So you'll be able to click on the Florida community threads or the Georgia community threads, and it will be a totally separate thread system with just those posts from agents in your state asking state-specific questions. And we're going to leave it up to you guys to kind of make the decision between whether your post belongs in the general brokerage-wide community threads or in the state-specific threads. And then the support team and the state brokers will be in here monitoring and making sure that we're answering and communicating and agents are helping each other. And so again, right now it's paginated. We're going to make it infinite scroll. Again, we're going to do things to make it feel more like the social media interfaces of today, but we had to start somewhere. All right. And again, the posts are pretty broad. You can put pictures in there. You can post video links in there. A lot of great ways to, again, to communicate with your other agents. And the cool thing too is we can then, as we build out tools in the future, we can use all of that communication inside of that community tab to, say, train an AI chatbot that can help answer questions in the future for our agents. So again, it's really important that this data becomes ours, right? That it lives inside of our technology. So that's the community tab. And then finally, the knowledge base, which everyone's already using. The knowledge base will be adding those same buttons where we'll have the broad knowledge base. Initially, we tried using folders for the different states, but that was getting too clunky. And so what we've decided to move to is state-specific knowledge bases. So you'll see the general corporate knowledge base, and then there'll be a link to go to your individual state-specific knowledge bases based on what states you are licensed in, and your license is hung with us here at LPT. So this is going to be a really exciting project. We're also considering, like, do we have a dedicated open house tab at some point, or does that belong in a different type of technology? Is message boards the best way to have agents promote open houses? My gut says no, it's probably some other type of system where it's more zip code based or tighter geographic based. So again, I think where you've seen other brokerages try to just use the technology that pre-exists, try to use Facebook, try to use Workplace, I firmly believe that by embracing our own internal technology, we're going to be able to tailor solutions so that if we do have a tab that's about open houses or listings or whatever it is, that it's very much built for that specific purpose, where you can search geographically. You can set notifications to say, hey, I only want to know about listings if they're in these zip codes. I only want to know about open house opportunities if they're in these zip codes. And other agents may say, hey, I don't want to see listings. I'm going to turn that notification off. And this is the type of granular control that you will have as we move this technology firmly into Connect. So again, really exciting project here. The other thing I want to talk about is we purposely have not launched an actual app yet for LPT Connect. Right now, Connect is a mobile-friendly website and a desktop-friendly website. Part of the reason we did this is we are updating the technology and updating Connect at such a frequent pace that it would be a nightmare to have to constantly go through the upgrade procedures with Apple and Android in order to get those new versions into the App Store. We will hit a point, maybe in another year, where our development path gets on a more normal release cycle. Normal companies release updates maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. There are times right now where we are releasing updates twice a week, 3 times a week, 6 times in a month, and there is no way we could possibly keep an app up with that. So we've made the strategic decision so that we can grow and build as fast as possible, that we focus on the mobile version. The mobile version will always be available, but there will be a point in the future where there is an actual app version, because that unlocks the ability for notifications and a few other type of special things that we can't currently do under the mobile website. And again, we want you to be able to do business the way you want to do business. If you prefer the mobile website, that will always be an option. If you prefer an app, then one day we are going to have that app, but we have to get to a point where we're slowing down the development cycle and we're not pushing things out so quickly in order for that to be a reality. And so again, I think we're probably a year away from that. We've learned so much. We are constantly adapting and reacting to how we see you all doing business, how we see you communicating, how we see you utilizing Connect, and that's how we drive those updates and how we drive those improvements. I think the other important thing is, if you look at what we're building here, right? We are building what is going to be this super valuable, massive global brokerage. And I think there is certain technology that it is really important for us to control when it comes down to how we communicate with you, how we interact with you. It's why we built Connect for the DAs and built Connect for the compliance side of things. Yes, we have .loop for e-signature and contracts, but then all the .loop data gets sucked into Connect because we wanted to be able to build truly custom solutions around that, and communication is the next piece of this. But we're very focused on making sure that we have internal technology that helps make us a valuable company as we build for the future. And this communication project is a big part of that and where we're going.
Yeah, awesome, man. I like to see that, man. And what's kind of so important to me, and what I think about as I'm always watching this, is people always want to have like everything at launch. You know what I mean? And not everything is needed. Yes, as you get there, we're going to continue to make those improvements. We have that technology roadmap that we're going to be working on things over the next year. So planning on what's coming, and that's important. But those people who kind of get like analysis paralysis, where they want too much to get started. Like sometimes you just got to get started, and then you make improvements along the way.
Look,
and
I can tell you this: we would have built all the wrong things.
Yeah,
like
you're right.
if we had pre-built all of this, because if you look at how much Connect has had to change, like when I hold up originally and built the alpha code for Connect at the beach, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I built it in a certain way, and we've had to change most of it because, again, now that we see the number of agents using it, how you're interacting, the complexity of transactions, and so again, we did ourselves a favor by having usable technology that we can control from day one, but not going crazy. So I'm gonna jump into this story real quick, and then we're gonna talk about our final topic of the day. But I do want to jump into this. So the guy who runs the moonshot projects for Google, he has this parable he tells, and I've heard it told different ways. The way he actually tells it is that there's this idea in tech of teaching a monkey to recite Shakespeare while standing on a pedestal. Okay. And this is like, again, obviously that's something very hard to do, right? You're going to teach a monkey to recite Shakespeare while standing on a pedestal. And the example and the purpose of the parable is that most technology companies, most startups, the first thing they would do is they would build the pedestal. They would build this beautiful pedestal, and they would spend all of this money and all of this time building the pedestal, and then they would later fail at teaching the monkey how to recite Shakespeare, because it's very difficult to teach a monkey to recite Shakespeare.
Right.
And so what his point is that you start with the hard thing first. You want to teach the monkey to recite Shakespeare first. Tom Ferry tells this story, and when he tells it, he says you're going to teach the monkey how to sing AC/DC standing on a stool. Again, a lot of different versions of this, but the key is you want to do the hard thing first. And so when you look at it, while this communication technology and the internal technology we build is difficult, it really is the pedestal, right? The monkey singing Shakespeare for us is building a model and a culture that can attract as many agents as we have to want to come together and be more successful in such a short period of time, and providing tools that actually help agents sell more houses, actually creating marketing tools that help agents be more successful, because that is the thing that brokerages have failed at time and time again. And again, most brokerages, most startups would say, hey, we're going to build out the perfect communication technology first. We're going to open a bunch of states first. We're going to go ahead and open 50 states. Well, that's really easy to do. That's building a pedestal. Anyone can do that. There is already someone who has opened a brokerage in every one of the 50 states,
right.
and companies who have done it in all 50. We said, look, we're going to be less focused on the pedestal, opening states, getting the technology absolutely perfect from day one, and we're going to focus on the monkey reciting Shakespeare, which is how do you build a culture and a compensation plan and a package of marketing tools that can actually drive agents to be more successful in a down market, and drive agents to come together and to build a massive community in a record amount of time. And that's what LPT built first. And now we're going back and we're going to build the perfect pedestal for that monkey to stand on and recite Shakespeare, but we had to tackle the hard thing first. And I'll tell you this other really interesting thing, because we have not, we have Desi, and Desi is a much different kind of AI than ChatGPT. If you look at the AI that most brokerages are releasing right now, it's really just ChatGPT wraparounds, right? They took the ChatGPT engine and they trained it on some brokerage-specific knowledge, and they're calling that an AI bot. We have our AI Desi, which is way more focused on design and business operations and nuanced things. And eventually, yes, we will roll out our ChatGPT type communication system at some point. But I think what happens is sometimes technology moves so fast and it shifts that people miss the boat. Because let me tell you, a year ago, ChatGPT technology would have absolutely been the monkey reciting Shakespeare, because no one had built it yet. But today, It's a pedestal, right? ChatGPT cracked it. They taught all the monkeys how to recite Shakespeare when it comes to generative AI. So now putting out an AI bot as a brokerage, that's now just a pedestal. But you have brokerages out there cheering as if they've done something massive with this generative AI. And so again, technology moves quickly. And yesterday's hard task, yesterday's teaching the monkey to recite Shakespeare can become tomorrow's pedestal. And if you're out there focusing on the wrong thing and thinking you taught the monkey how to recite Shakespeare when all you did was build a pedestal or build a stool because someone else taught the monkey how to recite Shakespeare, you're missing the boat on what's really important to growth. And so this all drives our development path and our growth path here at LPT Realty, because this is how I look at the world. And this is how I look at growth. And this is how I've built all of my businesses. And so we continue to tackle the harder things first. And so I tell all of that story simply for we are here at 21 months into this brokerage, and we're just now releasing this communication tool inside of Connect and focusing on it. Well, there's a reason for that. It's a pedestal. And the other piece of the pedestal is until you know exactly what your monkey who's going to recite Shakespeare looks like, how big do you build the pedestal?
Right.
How tall should the pedestal be? How wide should the pedestal be? We now get to make those right choices because we tackled the hard thing first. And now we're going to go back and build the amazing pedestals to hold all of the hard things that we have tackled as a brokerage. And that is how all of us win together.
That's right, man. I love that. It's a great analogy. It's such a great thought. And we are all guilty of doing that, right? Doing the thing that you're passionate about first, the thing that you want to do first, the item that you want in the box first. We're always, we're predisposed to do those things. And so I like that you have taken the time to show this at the corporate level, to show, hey, this is what financial steward looks like. This is what it looks like at the corporate scale. And while this business is going to be usually bigger than most agents' businesses, it's the same philosophy that applies
100%.
through everyone. Single agent, big team, big brokerage.
Wow, that's so much information. I hope you guys took some notes because it's really fun to watch as we continue to grow as a company and how we continue to expand the technology, right? Because a bigger company requires bigger technology, more technology. And what I love, we were talking about it earlier, smarter technology, right? It's funny because a lot of other companies or a lot of other people will pressure you into doing what is cool now, right? Or what's working now. But how many CEOs and how many people are looking to the future and saying, okay, well, wait, but what's the future? What's going to be the systems or the things that we can create that's actually going to give us a leg up in the future as we continue to grow? Because no other real estate company has ever hit the target that Mr. Robert Palmer is looking to hit. 160,000 agents nationwide. Actually, well, that's worldwide. At that point, it'll be international. So it's really cool to see. Now, one of the benefits that we get is called LPT Connect. This is something that you have. It gives you access to all of our systems, right? It gives you access to the CRM. It gives you access to your stock portfolio, to other agents. And so one of the things he talked about is communication. Yeah. How do we communicate more? Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of going to 4 or 5 different apps. Like I'm like, okay, can I just go to one thing or maybe 2 or 3 max? It's funny. I deleted my, Twitter, it's X now. Like I deleted my X account today. And, I don't spend as much time on Instagram because, you figure out like throughout the day, how much time are you wasting, going to all these different platforms? And so I love the idea that we're going to have one place that we can go to all of our stuff and we can go to communicate with who we want. And I loved he talked about, having the state specific ones, having the place to go. So exactly, okay, hey, this is where I want to go. This is who I want to talk to. And once again, we know that Robert Palmer is a technologist. I just love that he's constantly thinking about the consumer. He's constantly thinking about the agents. And I don't know, you can share the whole focus on the monkey thing. Well, he did a pretty good job talking about that anyways. But I just love to see this growth. I love sharing the growth. And I'm just excited to see where it goes.
What I thought was really cool is him sharing the reasoning and the behind the scenes vision of why he has done this and the way in which he's done it. And he kind of used the monkey on the stool, which I think is a great example. As he was talking, I sort of got a flashback to even mistakes that I have made. And I think a lot of agents fall into this where you decide you want to start a YouTube channel or you're a brand new real estate agent. You just got licensed. And one of the things that a brand new agent spends their time doing is designing the perfect logo and picking the perfect brand colors and coming up with a slogan and all of these things that feel productive. You feel like it's what you're supposed to be doing because that's what successful agents have. And then 3 months in, you haven't closed a single deal because you haven't done any prospecting because all the things that you were spending your time on were things that you didn't need right now. Like there were things that you eventually needed, but that wasn't the timing for them. And so having a leader who's started up so many businesses and grown successful businesses, and understanding of doing the hard things first and doing the things that the people don't, that all the work that no one really wants to do, doing that first, and then figuring out what you need to build to support that, and not just building all of this stuff. And that's what we've seen with some other brokerages, is they have a lot of technology, but they built it at the wrong time. And so they built the wrong technology. So they have these massive investments into tech that their agents don't use because their agents don't need, because they built the tech before they had the agents. And so, Robert took the approach of, let's get the agents, and then once we have them, let's figure out what it is they need. How are they using the existing technology that we have? What do they need different? And so, AJ and I have been asked that question a lot. Well, how do you guys communicate internally? Like, we're coming from EXP and we have Workplace. Do you guys have that? And it's like, well, we don't right now. And so I hope you understand now kind of Robert's reasoning for not just jumping on board and choosing a third-party solution that we're eventually going to outgrow and not have the granular control that we need over. And so hopefully that kind of clarifies sort of why we're just now getting around to this. But I think it's phenomenal. I'm excited to see what he comes up with. All the tech that he's designed so far, super useful, really easy to work with. So I'm excited, man.
I'm excited too, because we're going to be at 10,000 agents before you know it, and after that we're going to be at 20,000 agents. It's going to grow. It is growing fast, unless something weird happens, which I don't expect. So it's super excited to see. Now the next section is a lot of fun, because a lot of people have been hearing about this lawsuit, and so we actually got named in the lawsuit, which cracks me up. It's so funny. Somebody called me and was like, "Did you know we got named?" And I was like, "Yeah, but that was like for 5 years ago. We've only been a company for 2 years." So we're going to go ahead and let Robert kind of explain what his thoughts are on us being named in the lawsuit, and we'll be right back at you.
All right. Final thing we're going to move on to, which is that, as you guys know, we've had some.
By the way, the final thing,
right? We've had a few things floating around the industry in terms of like the lawsuits and the national thing. We all knew that was happening, and of course, we knew at some point it would hit regionals and states and whatever. So just recently, last week, we were also named in this lawsuit here at LPT. So
let me take this.
Yeah, let me give it from here. I don't want to.
Yeah. So last week, a lawsuit was filed in Florida against Florida realtors, and I would say the 15 largest brokerages by agent count who were not already named in one of the other lawsuits. So one of the interesting things about the way these class action suits are, once you've been named in one, if they name you in another one, then they run the risk of those two suits getting combined, and the lawyers don't want that. They each want to fight their own fight so they can, earn their own fees. And so they named the 15 largest brokerages in agent count in the state of Florida that had not already been named in other lawsuits. So your Remaxes, your Kellers, your EXPs, your Compasses, they all already have been named in much, much larger lawsuits that are either nationwide or the lawsuit that was already lost in Missouri. And so LPT was named as one of the defendants in this class action lawsuit last week. Again, it's a home buyer, I think, out of the Panhandle. It's a law firm out of Georgia who's working with a law firm here in Florida. And I'm not gonna go crazy into this, because we've talked about it a lot. We've talked about the things that make LPT different. We've talked about kind of what makes us look differently in the industry, because we are tackling things from a different perspective. And I'm definitely not going to get into our entire legal strategy here on LPT Connect. The important things I want to say is, one, this in no way changes my commitment to all of you, or our commitment corporately to LPT, or LPT's commitment to absolutely revolutionizing this industry, because we believe all of the things we're doing to revolutionize the industry actually do help the consumer and are actually contrary to most of the claims that you will see in these lawsuits. My commitment to you all is unwavering. I am here to stand and guide us through this. I talked about that when we were in Austin. In Austin about a month ago. We are here to build something amazing. And again, the fact that this law firm decided to name LPT as one of the 15 defendants alongside Florida realtors in no way changes our commitment to what we're building here at LPT Realty. The other thing I will say is, I do not believe that this law firm or this plaintiff did their homework on LPT before they named us in the lawsuit, because there are so many things that we are doing differently here, and there are so many ways that we built this brokerage to be different, to both empower you as agents, and I believe by empowering you as agents with choice, that ultimately drives more benefit to the consumer. Think about the tools we provide to you then you are able to provide to your clients the listing power tools, marketing collateral, the luxury collections marketing collaterals, the direct mail, all of these tangible ways that you are helping your consumers list their homes and sell them and bringing more value. And what I will tell you is, when you go up against a listing appointment on another agent who doesn't have all of that stuff, their position is weakened. And guess what? If they don't have all of this stuff, there is a greater chance that they may have to lower their commission even more than they would want to because of how much value you bring. So one, I believe that since LPT came on the scene in the markets that we have significant market share in, you will see consumers getting more value, consumers having more market power, consumers having less of the things that these lawsuits are claiming, because we did come in and change the game. We put more money in your pockets by taking less as the brokerage, which means you have the ability to charge less to your clients if you choose to do so. I personally recognize and have always believed that commissions were negotiable. It's why we built amazing tools to show consumers why they should negotiate their commissions and why they should hire one of our agents, because we bring the absolute most value to the table to justify the commission rate that they pay. And so again, I think the fact that the lawsuit covers a 5-year period of time and we are only a 2-year-old company, so clearly we were not involved in whatever was going on for the 3 years before we came into business. And then the fact that we do have so many policies and stances and agent choice and agent tools that all ultimately benefit the consumer is going to, put us in a different light as we look at this lawsuit. And so again, without getting into too much, I remain confident that the things we are doing benefit consumers. I remain confident that we do understand the way this industry works, and that we are changing things here at LPT Realty by bringing more tools and more value to help the home seller achieve what they want to achieve, which is selling their home for the most money and having success and getting out of that home as quickly as possible and having a smooth transaction. So I wanted to obviously address it. It's been in the news. It is in public records in Florida. The key takeaways are, it in no way changes our commitment or my personal commitment to each and every one of you who are part of LPT Realty. And as the plaintiff and the law firm start to peel back the onion on who LPT Realty is, they're going to find some surprises that they're not going to like, because it just doesn't play into their narrative, because we are doing things differently here. And we're actually doing things so differently here that we've changed the entire dynamic of the industry in the markets we are in, more in favor of agents and more in favor ultimately of consumers.
That's about as much as you can say on that. That's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but I will tell you what. When that news first came across, and I know I might have been the only one thinking about this, I was like, wow, we are one of the biggest ones already, like one of the biggest brokerages in Florida. And so while I know that's not really what I should have been thinking, I was just more so, it was like those moment where you're like, oh my gosh, we're so young, but yet we are still at the top of like, hey, we're gonna go to the next biggest brokerages, and so I thought that was cool. But yeah, I think that was so well said. And again, I know we won't spend a lot of time speaking about that, but you're right. LPT will continue to change the game. We will continue to provide a better playing field for our agents, which ultimately benefits the consumers. So thanks for taking the time to walk us through that. I know there's been a lot of questions. I probably got like 40 Facebook messages as they started to kind of like trickle. I've seen it on a lot of articles as well too. So okay guys, well, we're going to wrap it here. I know we're a little bit over. Real quick, I just want to let you guys know you would have received an email that the holiday sale is continuing through December 31st. That's with Showcase Photography. You have an easy link inside your inbox. I can walk you through how to order it and if it's in your coverage area. And again, you have 3 options there: pay up front, all at closing, or if it's an age listing over 60 days on market, you have the option to do that for free. So check out that link. There's a new way to order. It's at shop.lpt.com. It's also inside that email, and you can actually order your photography right there. And we'll continue to find additional ways to make those easy for you to access. So with that being said, any final words for you, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, hey, jump in there, take the community forums for a test drive inside of Connect. Right now, it is just the global brokerage version. Know that the state specifics will be pushed in a future release here probably in the next couple of weeks. But if you want to jump in there and get active and take a test drive on it, we want you all using it. We want you to beat on it and try to break it so that we can improve the technology and fix the technology. And ultimately, we want your feedback to make it better. So, get in there, help us build the tools, help us maximize the way that this brokerage is able to serve all of you, because that's what we're here to do. And go make it a great week. And again, we are running out of time here in 2023. It's been a doozy. I appreciate each and every one of you. Keep working hard out there. Keep it keep your foot on the gas, and we'll see you back right here next week on Motivation Monday.
All right, guys. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight. You know, a lot of people freak out when they hear a company's name in a lawsuit, but I think really, again, having someone who can understand and explain to you what's actually going on, you know, and AJ and I were talking, it kind of just seems like a lazy lawyer who is in charge of this one of like, let's just take the 15 biggest brokerages in the state of Florida, because obviously if they're that big, they must have been around for a while, and let's name them in this lawsuit, not understanding that you could have one of the top 15 or way higher up on the list than that in a very short period of time. So they probably just didn't do their research on LPT. I suspect that a lot of the other brokerages that are on that list have been around a substantial amount longer, but with how fast we've grown, we're kind of on that list in a much shorter period of time than other brokerages have been. And so, you know, not something I'm concerned about. Again, I think they just didn't do a very good job of researching, which will probably come back to bite them. But, you know, this is the culture that we're in. It is a litigious, litigious?
You're doing great.
Litigious society. A lot of people suing each other, and it's just kind of silly. I personally think this whole thing is just a money grab for the lawyers. I don't see how it really benefits the brokers. I really don't see how it benefits the consumers. The lawyers will make a crap ton of money on it, and that's about it. So no need to talk about that anymore. But hey, guys, we appreciate you joining us on this episode of Behind the Scenes with LPT Realty. Hope you got a lot of value out of it. Again, really kind of understanding where this company's headed, where we're going, where all this growth is taking us is super exciting, and we would love for you to be a part of it. So if you'd like to partner with LPT Realty, partner with AJ and myself, down in the description box below, there's a link that you can schedule a private one-on-one Zoom call with AJ and myself. We'd love to connect with you, chat with you, learn more about you, your business, your goals, what you're trying to do, see if LPT is going to be the right fit and if we're the best sponsors for you. So we hope to speak with you on a Zoom, answer any questions you have. And until then, be well.
See you guys next week. Love you.
See you guys.